Good afternoon and welcome to today's press conference with Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, Finland's Prime Minister Petteri Orpo and President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen. The press conference will be available on the Swedish government website government.se.
Okay, thank you. Okie dokie. Välkomna hit in Swedish. That means welcome. And my Finnish is still not good enough, even though I have a daughter in Helsinki. So I say welcome. Dear Petteri, dear Ursula, most welcome to Stockholm. And thank you both for being here. And not least, thank you, Ursula, for accepting our common invitation. And once again, thanks for very rewarding cooperation during the Swedish presidency. I really appreciated your hands-on leadership. Thank you. Last year, when Ursula was here in Sweden, we actually visited the Spaceport S-Range in Kiruna. I don't think you have forgotten that. That is mainland EU's first facility for launching satellites. And last night at 10 o'clock and I think 10:51 or something, 10:49, we were both watching, I guess. Marcus Wandt, the Swedish astronaut, went to space. And all of Sweden is very, very proud of what he is doing for all of us right now. Today we have been discussing the big strategic issues on the EU agenda, or perhaps how to make EU safer, greener and freer, as we used to put it during the presidency. On security, EU support to Ukraine must remain robust, substantial and long-term for as long as it takes. Countries like Sweden and like Finland are among those countries who fully understand that geography matters in geopolitics. February 1st, we will meet again in the European Council to try to reach a united decision on Europe's long-term economic support to Ukraine. To be able to keep a strong US commitment, it's obvious that also the EU needs to stay very firm and committed. Today we also discussed the European competitiveness and the green transition and forestry. Forestry makes EU stronger and more resilient and more prepared to tackle the combination of climate-related problems. But forestry also boosts our competitiveness by providing sustainable raw materials, renewable energy, and is an important part of the highly innovative industry in Sweden and in Finland. So allow me briefly to make the Swedish case. Forestry stands for around 10% of all Swedish exports. Along with Finland, that's more than other countries in the Union. Forestry is also one of the core industrial competencies that make both Sweden and Finland role models in the green transition. We can deliver what most countries cannot. We strongly support European cooperation and we do believe in level playing fields, but we also know that there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to forestry. The preconditions for forestry in different member states are simply too diverse. Renewable materials from forestry provide fossil-free alternatives. We saw this very first-hand today during our visit to the Biomaterials Innovation Lab at the Swedish-Finnish company Stora Enso. They demonstrated wood-based alternatives to graphite in battery production, thereby combining forestry with cutting-edge technology for electrification. This is big. Sweden is ready to do our part in reaching the climate goals, obviously. But to do so, we need EU policy that supports this development. The regulatory framework needs to acknowledge sustainable forestry as an asset in the green transition. I hope the discussions we've had today can provide a foundation for future EU policy, for example, in the upcoming strategic agenda for the next term. Every member state in the EU obviously has its own core competencies, earned sometimes since centuries. Forestry is one of ours. So, once again, thanks for today's constructive discussions, and I look forward to continue them. Over to you, Petteri.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here in Stockholm with my good colleague, Prime Minister Ulf, and with the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Thank you so much. You have had time to come here. We had an extensive discussion on the future of the European Union, competitiveness, security, Ukraine and bioeconomy. I think this meeting underlines our unity and strong resolve to solve the common challenges we are facing. First, on Ukraine. We need to keep our level of ambition to meet Ukraine's military and defense needs. At EU level, Ukraine must stay a strategic priority. We need to approve the funds for Ukraine and give a commitment of multi-year military assistance. We need to strengthen the capacity of the European defense industry and ramp up production of ammunition. Finland has recently made the decision to double our ammunition production. We have seen what Russia has done in Ukraine by attacking against independent nation. But I don't see any immediate military threat from Russia against Finland. We in Finland sleep peacefully at night because we are well prepared. However, all EU and NATO member states will also need to prepare themselves from any possible scenarios. On the future of the EU, Finland thinks that the main priorities for the next Commission should be strengthening Europe's strategic competitiveness and improving comprehensive security in Europe. Strategic competitiveness means improving the economic base, building a more dynamic single market based on the free movement, fair competition and better ability to conclude trade deals. Comprehensive security means building up security and defense industry, external relations and having stronger partnership to respond to global challenges. We also need stronger external borders. Finland also proposes creation of EU Preparedness Union. We need to be better prepared for future crises. Thirdly, promoting a clean transition and opportunities for the bioeconomy and circular economy should be our priorities. This means being a global frontrunner in clean energy. Here we underline technology neutrality. Sustainable bioeconomy is a solution to many topical and global problems. Bio-based products are renewable and it is possible to produce them sustainably in Europe, as we have seen today in our visit in Stora Enso. This is why bioeconomy should be an integral part of the EU's industrial policy. Finally, as Ulf said, this meeting highlights our important Nordic cooperation and our strength when we act together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ursula.
Thank you very much, dear Ulf and dear Petteri, for having me here today. And indeed, it was an excellent meeting. And let me focus on one of the most important issues. We had a wide range of issues, but I'll focus on a few. In 1 month from now, it will be 2 years since Russia launched its terrible war of aggression against Ukraine. And we have stood by Ukraine since day one, and we will continue to do so. Crucial is for Ukraine support, not only military support, this is also very important, but also economic support. And we discussed indeed the upcoming Special European Council, where we aim to find an agreement for the 50 billion euro for Ukraine for the next 4 years. Because this would provide Ukraine with predictable economic and budgetary assistance and underline our strong support for Ukraine. Russia's invasion has also been a wake-up call for Europe. We have to rethink our own defense and defense industrial base. And we must ramp up our defense industrial base. This will not only give us more access to the necessary military systems, but it will, of course, also improve very much the interoperability of the armed forces of the different member states in the European Union. And Finland and Sweden are both experienced and very reliable partners in defense. Sweden, for example, is a world leader in defense industry. Finland is, as we've just heard, also a pioneer in the concept of civil defense. And we exchange views and on what we can learn from this for the European level. So thank you very much for that. In March, the Commission will present a defense industrial strategy. We also discussed European competitiveness. It's one of the big topics on our agenda. And of course, in 2024, we must and will continue to strengthen our economy to adapt to the continuous changes that we see. They are well known, the challenges, the impact of climate change, the game-changing technological developments like artificial intelligence, the need for new skills, just to name a few of the challenges. Of course, we have to build on our strength. And one of our core strengths is our single market and the power of European innovation. And this morning, I could see it firsthand at Stora Enso. This center is really exemplary for the potential of the bioeconomy. That is, in other words, to replace fossil-based materials by bio-based ones. And this is key now in many sectors, from the batteries to the electric vehicles, from gunpowder to packaging, a wide range of possibilities, and these were only a few that I was mentioning. This innovation will drastically reduce our carbon footprint, and on top, and that's very important, it will reduce our dependency on critical raw materials on countries outside the European Union. So, in a nutshell, biotech is shaping Europe's future. And it was very impressive for me to see and to listen to the facts and figures again, proving the strength of the forest industry in Finland and in Sweden. Very important for Finland and Sweden, but also very important for the European Union and basically for all of us, because it's for the sanity of the planet. Unconditionally important. Innovation is key to our competitiveness, but of course a lot more needs to be done. I just want to mention the need to finalize a deep and liquid European capital market to make sure that these innovators we were just talking about have also access to capital. Or take, for example, the strengthening of our supply chains, here to diversify and to conclude trade agreements so that we reduce our dependencies. And of course, as I said, we need to continue improving the skills of our workforce. Final topic I want to mention is migration. It was a huge step forward that we were able to agree on the Pact on Migration and Asylum. This pact sets the rules to manage migration in the European Union based on solidarity and on fair sharing of responsibilities. And the pact gives us the means to better secure the control of our external borders. Most recently, Finland suffered from instrumentalization of migrants orchestrated by Russia. So this is yet another form of hybrid warfare. And this requires a clear and determined response. Finland has acted decisively, and you can rely on the European Union to support your efforts. At the same time, we're working with countries of origin of migration and transit to tackle illegal migration. And here we want to be very clear. We have always fulfilled our international obligations. We have done that in the past. We do that today. We will do it in the future. But it is us in Europe who decide who comes to the European Union and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers or even autocrats. So Ulf and Petteri, thank you very much for the excellent meeting and lots of good work ahead of us.
Thank you so much, Ursula. Please, questions?
Yes, we open up the floor for some questions. We start with the first row. Dagens Nyheter.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Pia Gripenberg from Swedish Daily Dagens Nyheter. Thank you for doing this. At first, a question to Prime Minister Kristersson, please. What measures are your government taking when planning to ensure that Sweden will meet the requirements when it comes to the carbon storage according to the LULUCF regulation? And I know that this Miljövårdsberedningen will present this report in December, but since the regulation in practice starts already in 2026, isn't it necessary to already today start to act to reach the net storage, please? And for President von der Leyen, in Finland and Sweden, the main parties see forest politics as very much a national issue. Why do you think it's important to take decision on forest policy on European level? And also, what do you expect from Finland and Sweden to contribute to this forest policy? And we also met people from Greenpeace outside here. Why aren't you meeting the environmental organizations while you're here? And finally, please, yesterday the SND announced their lead candidate for the upcoming elections. And I wonder, will you run for a second term?
I'll start with all the less exciting questions, okay? Well, obviously, as you say, I mean, there is a national issue in the sense, very nationally anchored topic, not least in Sweden and Finland. I mean, that goes without saying. But we also acknowledge that forestry is a part of the future climate policies. I mean, and that is, as we always say in all other aspects, that this is a common issue. You can only fight climate change if you do it in a joint way, and that goes for forestry as well. But we have tried today is actually to try to describe that forestry is not only a national asset in terms of employment, in terms of very big national income, but also a very big part of the solution to climate-related problems, replacing fossils, for example. But also in very many other aspects, as a carbon sink, obviously, but also the fact that cultivating forestry is also a way of increasing the capacity of being a carbon sink. So there are many aspects to this. And the formal answer to your question is obviously that the wonderful English word Miljövårdsberedningen, don't even try to make me translate that, but that Miljövårdsberedning is the place where we have all these discussions going on. I'm not saying we will be united in all aspects, but that is the place for the Swedish position to be anchored. I think the other questions were to you, Ursula.
Yes, thank you so much. So first of all, you know that there is an application time at EPP, and this lasts till the 21st of February, if I'm well informed. So we have to be patient till then. Now on the very important topic of the forestry. Indeed, Europe is covered with vast and very different forests, from the northern forests to the Mediterranean forests, for example. And of course, they are very different and they need very different management. But we can all benefit from the learning experience from these different types of forests we have all over the European Union. Now, what the northern forestry is concerned, Sweden and Finland are extraordinary, the home of extraordinary vast forests. Of course, you know that better than me, and this makes you uncontested experts in the European Union when it comes to forest policies. And we had a very constructive time of dialogue and exchange of facts and figures in the last months, and this shaped also the development of the legislation in the European Union. This is the way how it has to be, that we exchange knowledge on the European level, but from the member states, a lot of input. For example, as you know, there's no one who better than anyone else the importance of the high quality data that we need for forests, to make use of the monitoring technologies, to be able to have a monitoring for management of the forests. And this is how we presented the forest management monitoring in last winter. It was very much shaped by the input that came from the Swedish and the Finnish experience. This is, I think, the way it has to be. The monitoring itself is on the member states level. This is also very important, but the accumulation of data on the European level helps us not only to collect the data, but also to make them publicly available. For example, for startups, for example, for research, for example, for companies who want to work with it. So the principle is here, the monitoring itself and the collection of data at the member state level, aggregation at the European level to make it available to a wider public, a wider European public that then benefits from the variety also of data that we collect from the north, from the center of the European Union, or from the south.
Thank you. Petteri, a brief comment.
Yes, short comments on this issue. I'm very glad we had excellent dialogue today between Commission, Finland and Sweden, and forestry companies. And as we heard, Ursula very well understand the balance. We need forestry, we need industry. It's part of our economy. But it is also part of future. It's part of solution. It's not a problem. But we have to do, and we know how to do, this forestry by a sustainable way. There must be balance between environment, climate, and industry. And this is where we put more and more attention in Finland and in Sweden. And as Ulf said, the bioeconomy is also it's a solution for our big challenges. New technologies, how to get rid of fossils. The bioeconomy is solution.
Thank you. Please.
So, second row, Helsinki Sinomat.
Hi, thank you, President Ursula von der Leyen and Prime Minister. Thank you Ulf Kristersson. Thank you, Petteri Orpo. About Ukraine and also Orban, how do you think that will Hungary lose their right to vote to be able to keep on the support for Ukraine? And also one question for Kristersson and Orpo, will you support Ursula if she'll decides to continue as the president in the EU Commission? Thank you.
Would you mind starting?
Yeah, we have a very clear, engraved in the treaties, a very clear rules on how to deal with conflicting situations in the European Union. So, and first and foremost, the most important part is to negotiate with each other and to find compromises. And we are working intensively with the Hungarian government on finding a solution that we have a solution by 27 for the Ukraine 50 billion euros for the next 4 years. This is our main priority. But of course, we also prepare for alternative solutions if that is not something that we can reach. But in general, the European Union is built on dialogue and finding solutions together with all member states. The procedures that you were alluding to, which is the Article 7 procedure, is a different track. That is enshrined in the treaties concerning the voting rights, but this is completely different from the negotiations we have at the moment being on the 50 billion.
Allow me to say that on the first question that we sincerely share the hope that 26 countries supporting Ukraine will become 27 countries when we meet February 1st. And on the other question, well, let us all respect the fact that only Ursula can give the answer to her potential candidacy, but allow me to say like this, or repeat what I said previously, that we have a very, very good experience of cooperating with Ursula as the President of the Commission. Very good.
It's very easy to continue. The last question. I think that, Ursula, you have done excellent work as a leader of Commission, especially your leadership within COVID and Ukraine crisis has been very, very important. And I hope that in next Commission this leadership will continue, but it is on your hands. About Ukraine, the situation is critical in the war and in the battlefield, and Ukraine needs our help. We have to support Ukraine by militarily, politically, give humanitarian help as long and as much as needed. And that's why we need, it's crucial that we will have decision from next European Council to support Ukraine. And we have to do this decision, I hope that with 27 countries, but if it's not possible, when we have to decide it by 26 countries. But now it's good that there is negotiations with Viktor Orban, and I really hope that we can find a solution. We have to find a solution how to help and support Ukraine.
Yes, so for the last question, Dagens Industri.
Jonas Engmark, Skogsindustrin, Dagens Industri. I have a question for Ulf Kristersson. What are the most important forestry issues for Sweden that you have highlighted for Ursula von der Leyen? And do you feel that there is a scope in the EU to take into account Sweden's special nature when it comes to forestry, environment and climate issues?
Well, the short answer is yes. I think there is a scope. I think there is a potential. I fully respect that all countries don't think about forestry as often as we do. Fair enough. Not very strange. I think we have underlined a few things. Forestry is partly a carbon sink. Respect that. Growing forests is a source for biodiversity. It is a source for new raw material. Replacing fossils. There is enormous innovation in the industry. All of that has been underlined. But also, just let us kind of acknowledge that it is a huge source of income, huge source of employment. It's a huge source of the rural economy in Sweden. So it's actually in a very kind of geographically special country, it's very, very important, not only for the money it brings and the innovation, but also for providing a whole of the country approach. So I think we have underlined all these aspects, and we fully respect that other countries obviously can see it differently and have other experiences. But this is a core experience of Swedish industry. So I think we have made our case. That doesn't mean, obviously, that other countries automatically change their mind. Of course, it doesn't work that way. But in the same way that other countries are successful and eager to expose their special interests or special experiences, Sweden, we have to do that. We have to do that even more in the future than we have done previously.
I think it's important to emphasize again that how much we acknowledge that the importance of the forests in the northern part of Europe, and here specifically Finland and Sweden. We all know that these forests are the green lung of our climate. We all know also that they are the home of many, many people, that you have a long tradition living from the forest and with the forest, and therefore a strong incentive to cultivate, to maintain, and to foster these forests. And this is hundreds of years of experience behind it, where we, as we discussed, can learn from each other, and we can make the best so that this knowledge is available on the European level. Like you, of course, also can benefit from the knowledge, for example, of the southern forestries or central forestries in the European Union.
So, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.